Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to another video. Today discussing and reacting to the Trump town hall that he had in hostile territory with CNN. I've not seen this yet. I've been delaying gratification for several hours. Now that I'm not busy, we had Mexican Mother's Day, folks. So basically, we're going to be reacting to this keynote, and we're going to even give you full screen access because I'm such a nice guy. And we're going to be reacting to the 45th president's just complete evisceration of the liberals, I'm hoping. We'll see what happens here. So let's get some keynote rolling in. All right. All right.
Welcome to New Hampshire, the first GOP primary state. We're live here at St. Anselm College for CNN's town hall with former President Donald Trump. I'm Caitlin Collins. Tonight, President Trump is here as he embarks on a campaign unlike any other in the history of U.S. presidential elections. He's the first former president in more than a century to seek a return to the White House, and he is currently leading the Republican field while also facing multiple criminal investigations and an indictment. Just yesterday, he was found liable for sexual abuse and defamation. No questions are off the table, and we agreed to no conditions. We're here to get voters the answers that they deserve. Our audience is made up of Republicans and undeclared voters who plan to take part in New Hampshire's Republican primary. They'll get
already just coming off very strong with like the bias, eh?
And the issues that they care about the most will help decide if former President Trump will get
It's a very, very white electorate, so that's going to be good for Trump probably. This is in New Hampshire, not a lot of minorities, not a lot of crime, by the way, so let's see what happens. See, look at this. Look how congenial the guy is. It's like he's radiating Riz. He's radiating, energy. I love it.
President Trump, thank you for your time here tonight. We got a great crowd here in New Hampshire, a lot of voters with a lot of questions about what your 2024 term would look like, what another Trump term would look like. We'll get to the voters shortly, but your polls show that you are dominating the Republican race right now, but you are also under active federal investigation for trying to overturn the 2020 election results. Your first term ended with a deadly riot at the...
See, he's such a Don because he might look like a bullfrog with his like naked expression. But he's like contemplating. The guy is so viscerally intelligent. And a lot of people don't recognize this. And it's really a bell curve of people's assertion of Trump's intelligence, where it's like dumb hillbillies on one side saying, man, that motherfucker's smart as hell. And there's like the nitwit retard intellectuals that are pseudo Reddit liberals that are like, actually, no, he's actually a doofus and he's actually a retard and he doesn't have an inner monologue. Blah, blah, blah. Then there's the really smart people. And again, I'm in that cohort where it's like, hey, yo, compadre, this nigga's actually really intelligent. And that's the wavelength I'm on. And that is one where Donald Trump, again, reacting to this viscerally, and I don't know if this girl is like smashable, but the point being is that he's looking at this girl like this bitch is lying about me. Now let me cook up something smart. And his wit is impeccable. It's really quick. And you'll see what's going to happen. Again, I haven't seen this yet, so we'll see. I'm trusting the plan.
Capitol, and you still have not publicly acknowledged the 2020 election results. Why should Americans put you back in the White House?
Because
Again, imagine he's in a Republican town hall and she's coming off negative from the jump. What other candidate gets that opposition? He's the most oppressed candidate in my lifetime. And, oh, but Kanye. Okay, yeah, whatever. Okay, that's like, he wasn't going to win anyway, all right?
did fantastically. We got 12 million more votes than we had in, as you know, in 2016.
That's a good line.
I actually say we did far better in that election. Got the most that anybody's ever gotten as a sitting president of the United States. I think that when you look at that result and when you look at what happened during that election, unless you're a very stupid person, you see what happens. A lot of the people,
let's go.
In this audience, and maybe a couple that don't, but most people understand what happened. It was a rigged election, and it's a shame that.
Damn, he's not backing down.
Country all over the world, they looked at it. And they saw exactly what everyone else saw. You look, even if you just look recently with the 51 intelligence agents, that made a 16-point difference. If you look at the FBI, if you look at the FBI, and,
he's trying to cut him off. You know, he's a real truth speaker.
Mr. President, back to what you just said there, though, it was not a rigged election. It was not a stolen election.
Shut up, bitch.
You and your supporters lost more than 60 court cases on the election. It's been nearly 2.5 years. Can you?
Who cares about the court cases and morality, though? I mean, that's like if I went up to a black guy in 1930 and said, you don't deserve rights because y'all already lost 50 court cases about, arbitrage about slaves, transferring to the North, and y'all lost on Jim Crow shit. Like what? So now it's not a sussy election because the courts decided so. And on what? If you look at the vast majority of these cases, they were settled off of technicalities, laches, these other, like Latin pseudo-intellectual, like stare decisis, all this shit where it's like, you don't have standing because you're suing after the election happened. And it's like, well, you would think, well, I mean, how else would I know if the election were to, be, fondled with, so to speak, if it were a bunch of like plastic balls in this metaphor, how am I going to know that they were molested if I hadn't interacted with the election yet? So to say like, oh, you can't sue because the election already happened. It's like, well, what am I going to sue before? It's like, okay, well, so yeah, no, this like whole idea of, oh, 60 court cases lost. So what? You could go to the Supreme Court and say the same thing of like, oh, well, I mean, you guys have protected slavery and fugitive slave laws several times over and over again for like 200 years straight. And then so what? Like, I mean, they still abolish slavery. Why? Because the president is not the ultimate arbiter of the law, nor is it of morality, more importantly. So just because they got thrown out does not mean that there's any like truth into saying that, oh, this is the safest election. We had the most amount of mail-in votes, but it's the safest one. Like, let's just use a little bit of logical reasoning. And yeah, I cannot expound on more because obviously we're on YouTube and we have to respect the TOS. But the point being is that, you know, Donald Trump is not a liar.
Publicly acknowledge that you did lose the 2020 election.
Let me just go on. If you look at True the Vote, they found millions of votes on camera, on government cameras, where they were stuffing ballot boxes. So with all of that, I think it's a shame that what happened. I think it's a very sad thing for our country. I think it's a very sad thing, frankly, for the world, because if you look at what's gone to our country has gone to hell. Our borders are bad. Our military has been bad. You look at the taxes, you look at inflation, what's happened to inflation. It's just destroying our country. We've really become, in many ways, a third world country. And it's very sad what's happened in this administration. And it's something that will turn around on day one. We were energy independent. Now energy is at a level that we've never had to pay before. Nobody can afford to continue to pay what's happening with energy. But we were energy independent. We were getting out of Afghanistan with strength and with dignity. And instead we got out, we looked like fools, probably the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country.
We have a lot of questions about the economy and foreign policy tonight. But what you just said there, Republican officials debunked those claims about fraudulent ballots.
Get off his dick, please.
Who?
Republican officials in Georgia and every single state.
She stuttered.
Your own election officials, Mr. President.
Look,
So we wanted to
people
give
were
you a
afraid
chance.
to take on the issue, but we have a big problem in this country. We have
wanted to give you a chance
elections.
to
We have
acknowledge the
elections
results.
that were horrible. If you look at what happened in Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, if you look at what happened in Detroit, Michigan, if you look at what happened in Atlanta, millions of votes, and all you have to do is take a look at government cameras. You'll see them. People going to 28 different voting booths to vote, to put in 7 ballots apiece.
But Mr. President,
and they're all
I
on
have to
camera.
stop you there because there is no evidence of that. Your own election officials testified to that and have said that Republicans
gaslighting
in these
is
states
insane
did
here
this.
with
In
this
Georgia,
bitch.
there were multiple recounts, including a hand recount. We have questions about the
Look, and again. I would, by the way. I would, but it's like, bitch, please shut the fuck up.
claims that you're making tonight from voters on this topic. I want to bring in Scott Dustin from Concord. He works in insurance litigation. He's an undeclared voter. That's what they call independents here in New Hampshire, as you know. He did vote for you in 2020. Scott, what's your question for the president?
Hi, President
Did he get, like, did somebody, like, fish him out of a lake? You see, like, that scar on his chin?
Trump. Welcome back to New Hampshire.
Thank you.
Will you suspend polarizing talk of election fraud during your run for president?
Bro, really? Really? These are plans, bro.
Will I
What the
suspend-
fuck?
Excuse me, what?
Will you suspend polarizing talk of election fraud during your run?
No.
Yeah, unless I see election fraud. If I see election
Yes.
fraud, I think
Oh, that's smart. Yo, that is even smarter than what I came up with. Yo, that is amazing. Holy shit.
an obligation
God
to say
damn,
it.
this
And,
nigga's
what we went
spitting,
through,
bro. Oh my God.
A short while ago has really
Dude,
put
that's
our country in
awesome.
a big problem. I hope to do that. I hope we're going to have very honest elections. We should have voter ID. We should have one-day elections. We should have paper ballots.
Great rhetoric.
Mail-in votes. But the answer is yes, and I hope that it's going to be very straight up, because if it's going to be straight up, we're going to win the election.
So you will.
Let's go.
suspend talk
Yeah.
to this question
If
about
things go right, I will
election
win.
campaign
Well, I
trail?
guess
Yes.
we're going to just win. We're at a point now. We're getting so close. Let's just win it again and straighten out our country.
One other question on this.
Yeah. Real MAGA Patriots. Let's fucking go.
When you
Nice.
talked about the 2020 election results in the past, you once suggested terminating the Constitution. Do you stand by those
Stutter.
comments?
No. You were able to do certain things. I'm not talking about terminating the
Suspending the
Constitution. I'm
Constitution
talking
is such a
about
red herring
cherishing
on her
the
part.
Constitution. The
Facetious
Constitution
as
says
hell.
we're supposed to have legal.
You
and
know she didn't vote for Trump,
well-maintained
okay?
and well looked at
Goddamn.
elections, and we didn't have that. I cherish our Constitution, but we have to live up to the Constitution. We weren't living up to the Constitution.
I would just say there's no evidence of that election fraud. You did once
You're
tweet.
supposed to say that, but I'm glad you say that. But look,
That's
that was
the
a
truth, Mr.
horrible
President.
election. That was a horrible election, and unless somebody's very stupid, and I know you very well, you're not stupid at all, but you.
I don't even know this bitch's name. I think he's capping about
perhaps
that.
Given an agenda, or you have an agenda. Look, we have to have honest elections in our country. We have open borders. We have. You look at what.
Dweeb, get off of your fucking phone. This guy in the glass. Guy with the fucking cope goggles. What the?
I mean, we have
Bruh.
elections. We have open borders.
Donald
Look
Trump
at
is
what's
speaking.
happening
Get
on
off
our
your
southern
phone.
border.
Boy.
Millions and
Boy.
millions of people are coming here. They're being released from prisons. They're being released from mental institutions. And we have millions of people pouring into our country. And now they're getting rid of Title 42, which I put on, which kept people out that were sick.
True.
And Mr. President, we have a lot of questions about immigration to get to tonight. Obviously, that's a big topic, especially given what's expected to happen tomorrow. But I want to talk about the influence you have over your voters. It's very clear that you are very influential.
Is she a 4 out of 10 or a 7? It's hard to tell.
And seen it up close, which raised a lot of questions about the influence we saw you had on them on January 6th and your supporters when they attacked the Capitol. Do you have regrets about your actions on January 6th?
Well, you know, January 6th was, again, we go back to it, but January 6th had to do with the fact that hundreds of thousands of people, and you don't see the pictures very often. A lot of the people here probably were there. January 6th, it was the largest crowd I've ever spoken to. That was prior to the walk down to the Capitol building. I don't think, and I've spoken to hundreds of thousands of people. I've never spoken to a crowd as large as this. And that was because they thought the election was rigged. And they were there proud. They were there with love in their heart. That was an unbelievable, and it was a beautiful day. And what I was asked to do, I wasn't involved in it very much. I was asked to come in when I make a speech. I made a speech. I said, walk peacefully and patriotically, or, you know, many different things. In fact, I brought a list of things. I don't want to bore the audience, but we can go sentence after sentence after sentence of things I said and things I put out. One of the big problems was that Nancy Pelosi, Crazy Nancy, as I affectionately call her, Crazy Nancy
Another
Pelosi,
one, yeah,
and the mayor of
Zinger, let's
Washington
go.
were in charge, as you know, of security. And they did not do their job.
National Guard. You're in charge of the National Guard.
Well, I offered them National Guard. I said,
and he called them, exactly.
National Guard. We'll give you whatever you want. And they turned me down.
You're acting defense
she turned me down. She turned me down in writing. They turned me down.
But your acting defense secretary, Chris Miller, at the time, he says you never gave a formal order to deploy the National Guard. But when it came to that day...
just the opposite. Chris Miller wrote a book, and he's a fantastic guy, and he was ready to go. They turned him down. If you look, the mayor of Washington, D.C., lovely lady, she said, we don't want it. We don't like the look. Nancy Pelosi said, oh, we don't like the look. If they would have had I offered them 10,000 soldiers. I said, it could be 10, it could be more, but I offered them specifically 10,000 soldiers. If they would have taken 500 soldiers, you wouldn't have the problem. They turned it down. And if you look at the Inspector General report, he says they turned it down. They made a terrible mistake.
Well, Chris Miller was your acting defense secretary. He says you never gave that order. But back to what happened that day. You said you weren't.
She looked at the ground and she was saying that she's full of shit. She knows that Donald Trump was being honest. And again, how would that be a lie? He very specifically had that specific, 10,000 figure at hand, which means that he's thought about it before, which means that he was being honest because he's recalling that from memory. When he's saying that the Democrats are the ones that didn't want the National Guard, probably because they knew that it was going to backfire on the Republicans optically if January 6th were to occur the way it did. And so they were in on it, obviously, to some extent, even in a subconscious level, knowing that spurging out at the Capitol would have benefited the Democratic ends for them. And so, no, Trump's right, and this bitch is lying.
Testified that, Mr. President.
Did not say that.
But you said you weren't very involved that day. You did tell your supporters to come to Washington. You tweeted about that speech that happened on the rally.
Am I allowed to say that?
When they went to the Capitol and they were breaking into the Capitol, smashing windows, injuring police officers, why did it take you 3 hours to tell them to go home?
I don't believe it did. Oh, let me pull it out. I have to pull it out.
Let's go! Yeah, prop mode. Yes, sir. Skirt. Let's go.
On January 5th, the day before, I said, please support our Capitol Police and law enforcement. They are truly on the side of our country. Stay peaceful. Stay peaceful. This was the day before, and this was in the form of Twitter. Now use Truth Social. I think it's far superior, okay? I hope everybody's on it.
Cope. Okay, I disagree.
If you look January 6th, this is before 2:30. I am asking for everyone at the U.S. Capitol to remain peaceful. This is right after, as it was happening. But what happened is they took it down. I don't know why. I think they took it down because it was so good. They didn't like it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they were taking down his shit like during that.
Until I got it back, because now I have 90 million people waiting for me to go back, but I'm on Truth and I'm staying on Truth. Listen, I am asking for everyone at the U.S. Capitol to remain peaceful. No violation. We want no violation. We want no violence. Remember, we are the party of law and order. Respect the law and our great men and women in blue. Thank you. That was at 2:30. That was very early.
Mr. President, I looked at the same timeline that you did.
No, but you didn't report that. You know why? Because it was
we
taken
did report
down.
it. I was reporting that
It was taken down and it wasn't.
But when it was clear to you that they were not being peaceful, you saw them rushing the Capitol, breaking windows. They were hitting officers with flagpoles, tasing them, beating them up. When it was clear they weren't being
tasing
peaceful,
them, what?
Why did you wait 3 hours to tell them to leave the Capitol? They listened to you like no one else. You know that.
They do. I agree with that. But
so Nancy
Pelosi and the mayor are in charge. I assume they were able to do their job. They weren't.
But Pelosi's not in charge of Capitol
And if you remember, I made a video right outside the Oval Office in the Rose Garden. And I'm very proud of that video. I didn't have a script. I don't need scripts like a certain person that's in there right now.
What time, the video? It came out much later.
Wet. Look. Bam, side hit to Joe Breezy, okay? Just like it's nothing. Cash money, man. Nice.
It was a beautiful video. And it said, I don't want to read it all, but you have to go home now. We have to have peace. We have to have law and order. We have to respect our great people of law and order. We love the people of law and order. We can't play into the hands of these other people. We have to have peace. Please go home. I said that. You know what they did? They took that down, and you know, to this day, it hasn't been put up. And the reason is it's so good and so conclusive that all of this nonsense and all of the tens of millions of dollars that have been spent are just wiped away with this one, and they've never put it back up. They had another one that they did the same thing.
But that video that you referenced there, it wasn't posted until 4:17 p.m.
No, I'll tell
they
you,
breached the Capitol at 2 p.m.
That video was posted.
4:17
Yeah,
p.m.
actually a little bit before that.
Right, so that's my question. Because in that 3 hours, over 140
Excuse me, it was
officers
posted after the first one I just read, though, and that was at 2 o'clock.
But I think the reason the timeline is so critical here, because going back to your influence,
She's
in
stuttering
that 3
again.
hours, over 140 officers were injured that day.
And a person named Ashley Babbitt was killed.
Yes.
You know what? She was killed, and she shouldn't have been killed. And that thug that
Let's
killed
go.
her, there was no reason to shoot her.
Let's go.
Blank range, cold blank range, they shot her. And she was a good person. She was a patriot.
One
There was
person
no
who was
reason.
there-
There was no reason. And he went on television to brag about the fact that he killed her.
The officer was not bragging about the fact that he
Oh,
killed
he
her.
was
But one
bragging.
person who was at the
He was
Capitol that day, as you
Let's
know,
go.
was your vice president, Mike Pence, who says that you
Fuck him.
endangered his life on that day.
Pussy
Do you
ass
feel-
nigga.
Mr. President, do you feel that you owe him an apology?
Fuck no.
No, because he did something wrong. He should have put the votes back to the state legislatures, and I think we would have had a different outcome. I really do.
But he doesn't have the authority.
Yes,
to do that.
sir.
What?
Yo, that's
The vice
awesome.
president does not have the authority to
Okay,
reject
are you
those,
ready? Let's
those
have this
election
one out
results.
just now, because it's interesting. Let's keep it interesting.
Yes,
right?
he does.
I like Mike Pence very much. He's a very
Kidding.
fine man. He's a
I
very
don't
nice
know.
man. He made a mistake. His lawyer said, you cannot move. I called him the human conveyor belt. I said, even if the votes, I talked to his lawyer, even if the votes are absolutely fraudulent, he can't say, yes, sir, he can't send back. And the Democrats played it, and the rhinos played it. And then the election was over. They told him he couldn't do it. And Mike said to me, I can't do it. The lawyers told me I can't do it. They can't do it. But the lawyers were wrong. Because right after the election, they all met, the rhinos and the Democrats, and they worked out a plan to make sure that future vice presidents don't do what I said you could do.
That's not what happened. You're referring to the Electoral Count Act.
That's exactly
I've read that. There is no authority.
No,
Legal
excuse
experts,
me.
including Republican legal experts, say that he does not have that authority, Mr. President.
Caitlin,
But I want
why
to
did
move
they
on.
change the law then, saying that you can't do it?
They didn't change the law. They strengthened the law because they were worried about
Oh, they
presidents
strengthened it,
exploiting.
meaning you could do it. Thank you.
That's not what it means.
Thank you.
Dude, it's so easy.
Convinced him he didn't.
Get a
And
guy
it's
to
horrible for our
moderate
country.
the
If you would've
debate. Like,
sent
this
those
bitch is
votes
getting
back to
walked on,
Georgia,
man.
Pennsylvania, and
Jeez.
other states, Wisconsin, which if you look at Wisconsin, they virtually admitted now that the election was rigged. If
They
you
have
would have
not
sent
admitted
those
that,
votes
Mr.
back to
President.
many of those states, they would not go back in the affirmative. And remember what I said, and you just said it pretty much. You admitted what I said was right.
I
They
did
said he
not.
didn't have the right to do it, and he did have the right to do it, and that's why they changed the law, taking that right away.
I should note that your campaign paid for a recount that happened in Wisconsin. It actually had more votes for President Biden by the end of it. But I want to move on to Wayne Byer. He's a retired attorney from North Conway.
So
who
many
is-
illegal votes were cast in Wisconsin, and if you look in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, they had so many illegal votes, they didn't even know what to do with them. You're absolutely wrong
Mr.
about
President,
that.
there weren't any fraudulent votes in Wisconsin. I do want to get to the audience, so we have questions for you.
Okay, now that is just ass. Oh, there were no votes. What? Really? None? Huh? That's like saying there were no illegal immigrants crossing the border at Tijuana to San Diego or something at 2 a.m. on a Tuesday. Like, of course there must have been like 5. All right. To say there were none is just asinine.
From the
Come on.
audience, Wayne Byer is a retired.
And again, she says there were none. Like, that is literally statistically impossible. Out of millions of votes, to say that not even a single one. But it's their belief. They have a preconceived bias. Just as much as the Trump supporters have a bias to think that Donald Trump won, the Democrats also have a bias. But they pretend like they don't have one. And that's the dishonest part that really pisses me off.
Retired attorney from North Conway. He has previously served in Republican administrations. He volunteered for the Republican Party in the 2022 midterms. He voted for you in 2020.
Dollar
Mr.
store
President,
Roger
Wayne.
Stone.
Thank you for coming, Mr. President.
Thank you, Wayne.
My question to you is, will you pardon the January 6th rioters who were convicted of federal offenses?
I
go.
am inclined to pardon many of them. I can't say for every single one because a couple of them probably they got out of control. But you know, when you look at Antifa, what they've done to Portland, and if you look at Antifa,
I like
look at
this
what they've done to
obfuscating to
Minneapolis and,
Antifa.
so many other places. Look at what they did to Seattle and BLM. Many people were killed. These people. I'm not trying to justify anything. But you have two standards of justice in this country.
Real.
And what they've done, and I love that question, because what they've done to so many people is nothing. And then what they've done to these people, they've persecuted these people. And yeah, my answer is I am most likely, if I get in, I will most likely, I would say it will be a large portion of them. You know, they did a very, and it'll be very early on. And they're living in hell right now.
So when it comes
they're
to
living in
pardons-
hell. And they're policemen, and they're firemen, and they're soldiers, and they're carpenters and electricians, and they're great people. Many of them are just great people.
Mr. President, one of the people who was convicted was a former policeman, but he was convicted of attacking a police officer, I should note. But when you said you are considering pardoning
Who cares? Like, he obviously clarified and said not all of them, you bitch. And then you nitpick one. Oh my God, really? Fucking idiot. It's like the equivalent if you were to say most most teenage DACA recipients should stay in America. And then the Republican would say, well, what about the 17-year-old guy that molested a kid? It's like, I mean, yeah, no shit. I mean, we're talking about the majority here, dipshit, not this one nitpick. Like, that's so disingenuous.
A large portion of those charged with crimes on January 6th. Does that include the 4 Proud Boys members who were charged and convicted of seditious conspiracy?
I don't know. I'd have to look at their case, but I will say in Washington, D.C., you cannot get a fair trial. You cannot. Just like in New York City, you can't get a fair trial either.
Let's go. Felt it. Table.
New York, I want to ask you about a significant verdict that was reached yesterday. I know this is something you want to weigh in on as well. A Manhattan jury found that you sexually abused the writer E. Jean Carroll and defamed her. You've denied this, but what do you say to voters who say it disqualifies you from being president?
Well, there aren't too many of them because my poll numbers just came out and they went up.
Let's go! Yes, sir. Oh my God, that was so good. Holy shit!
Like and usually you
Banger alert!
I'm sorry,
oh my
I'm going
God!
Back home. I'm back home
This
to my
guy's
family.
so
I'm
good.
going to be resigning. My poll numbers went up, and they went up with the other fake charge too. Because what's happening is they're doing this for election interference.
Ooh.
This woman, I don't know her. I never met her. I have no idea who she is. I had a picture taken years ago with her and her husband, nice guy John Johnson. He was a newscaster, very nice man. She called him an ape. Happens to be African American. Called him an ape. The judge wouldn't allow us to put that in. Her dog, or her cat, was named Vagina. The judge wouldn't allow to put that in. All of these things, but with her, they could put in anything. Access
this
Hollywood.
This was a jury of 9 people who found you liable of sexual abuse.
Stuttered
Do you think
again.
that will deter women from voting for you?
No, I don't think so, because I think the whole thing, just so you understand, ready? I never met this woman. I never saw this woman. This woman said, I met her at the front door of Bergdorf Goodman, which I rarely go into other than for a couple of charities. I met her in the front door. She was about 60 years old. This is like 22, 23 years ago. I met her in the front door of Bergdorf Goodman. I was immediately attracted to her, and she was immediately attracted to me. And we had this great chemistry. We're walking into a crowded department store. We had this great chemistry, and a few minutes later, we end up in a room, a dressing room of Bergdorf Goodman, right near the cash register. And then she found out there were locks on the door, so she said, I found one that was open. She found one. She learned this at trial. She found one that was open. What kind of a woman meets somebody and brings them up, and within minutes, you're playing hanky-panky in a dressing room, okay? I don't know if she was married then or not. John Johnson, I feel sorry for you, John Johnson.
Mr. President, can I
Think of it.
I know you're recounting.
Kino! Dude, yo, bro, he's such a savage. Oh my God. Oh my, this is like beyond 2016. This is amazing. Oh my God. Yo, this is so Kino. Think about it. Dude, the detail he's going for, this is like such a real nigga moment. It's like beyond Bill Clinton level. Bill Clinton gets head from Monica Lewinsky, lies about it to everybody. Donald Trump is like even better because not only did he not do the bad thing, but he's also being cool about explaining why he didn't do it. Where he's like, look, do you really think I would fall in love with a 60-year-old woman 20 years ago? Why would Donald Trump sleep with a girl that's like 10 years older than him 20 years ago? And look, think about it. Even him now, his wife is like 50, not 60. Why the hell would he sleep with a 60-year-old when he has access to any, infinitum of women that are anywhere from like, 20 to 50 or whatever? Like, really? He's going to go for a girl like that bitch, E. Jean Carroll or whatever, when he could be going for, what's her name? Melania or somebody like that? Really? Are you kidding me? You really think he would sleep with that girl? And again, the accusations about Trump otherwise are like, oh, you slept with a 20-year-old porn star. He slept with the 25-year-old. Okay, then why would he sleep with a 60-year-old? How does that even make sense? Make that make sense, bitch. So obviously it's fake. And again, so they met at a department store and had sex in a fucking dressing room? Really? When has that ever happened? Like, okay, and look, did Fabio ever do that? Did like some Chad do that? Has Brad Pitt ever done that? Oh, we saw each other at a Macy's and we slept in no, that doesn't happen. Women don't put up that easy. And if they do, that's odd. And that's her fault, honestly. Like, seriously, what the hell is wrong? And on top of that, we met right away. And then he did something in the dressing room that's like inappropriate. Why did you go with a guy to a dressing room? How does that even make sense? And I haven't even looked into the case, but I can already tell it's bullshit. Just off of what I've learned just now. Really? Like, what? It doesn't make sense at all. Okay? And just seriously. And then the whole, like, calling her husband an ape and the vagina thing with the cat or something. Those are all good anecdotes to show that this woman is crazy and she's old and she's kooky. Awesome.
What she said, but Mr. President,
Let me just, if I could, because you asked a question.
This was a
just so you
jury,
understand,
though.
if I was walking in, because I was very famous then, and I owned the Plaza Hotel right next door, and I owned buildings around it, I'm not going into a dressing room of a crowded department store. Then I say, if she was being raped. And by the way, they said she wasn't raped. Okay, that was her charge. She wasn't.
They found that you sexually abused her.
What? Say what they did. They said he didn't rape her. And
They did
I
not
didn't
say
do
he
anything
did.
else either. You know what? Because I have no idea who the hell she is.
But Mr.
I don't know
President,
who this woman
can I
is.
ask you, given your recounting
I
your
don't know
version?
who, and I tell you this.
But Mr.
Are
President,
you ready?
can I
swear
ask
on
you
my
because-
children, which I'd never do. I have no idea who this woman. This is a fake story, made up story. We had a horrible Clinton-appointed judge. He was horrible. He allowed her to put everything in. He allowed us to put nothing in.
Mr. President,
this is a
you're
fake
recounting your version
story.
of events here right now to the audience. You referenced the trial. You did not go to the trial and actually
That's right.
testify. Do you wish that you had
No,
testified?
it wouldn't have made a difference. This was a rigged deal. This was
True.
my lawyer said, "Sir, you don't have to do it." I actually said, "I think I should. It would be respectful." They said, "Sir, don't do it. This is a fake story, and you don't want to give it credibility." That's why I didn't go.
One thing you did do in this.
And I swear, and I've never done that. And I swear to, I have no idea who the hell. She's a
Mr.
whack
President,
job.
you did not testify in person in this trial. There was a tape deposition of you from October in it. You defended the comments that you made on that Access Hollywood tape about being able to grab women how you want. Do you stand by those comments?
I said, if you're famous and rich or whatever I said, but I said, if you're a star, you are, and I said, women let you. I didn't say you grab. I said, women let. You know, you didn't use that word, but if you look,
Real.
women let you. Now, they said, will you take that back? I said, look, for a million years, this is the way it's been.
Let's go! Yo! Oh my god. This is optical disaster and optical victory all at the same time, bro. This is like the equivalent of Hitler taking Austria, where it's like, bro, this is such a bad deal for everybody but him, and he still like took it over with no effort. Okay? And you know, it's like, you know, and I made a tweet that was like, oh, I'm the Patrick Mahomes of optics. And what I meant by that was, oh, I will, you know, I can run around. It'll look ugly. Trust me. Like, it's like, what the fuck is he doing? And then a voice in your head says, let him cook. And then all of a sudden, 50-yard touchdown pass to Travis Kelce. Nobody saw it coming. Touchdown. Whoa, buddy. Watch that. And so it's the Patrick Mahomes effect, where I'm running around, scrambling around, sidearm throw, Superman, parallel from the ground, almost completed in the Super Bowl. If you recall that from 2 years ago, it was awesome. Anyway, the point being is that Donald Trump is also the Patrick Mahomes of optics, where it's kind of like Brett Favre, where you're just throwing a prayer, but it still works. So he's saying like, oh, do you recant the grab him by the pussy line? And he's like, it's been the reality for a million years. There you go. Perfect.
I want to be honest. This is the way it's been. I can take it back if you'd like to, but if you're a famous person, if you're a star, and I'm not referring to myself, I'm saying people that are famous, people that are
You were asked
stars,
in the deposition,
people
do you
that are
consider
rich,
yourself to be a star, and
people
you
that are
said yes.
powerful, they tend to do pretty well in a lot of different ways, okay? And you would like me to take that back? I can't take it back because it happens to be true. I said it's been true for 1 million years, approximately 1 million years, perhaps a little bit longer than that.
So you stand by those comments?
Well, I don't want to lie.
Mr. President, we
here's
have a lot of
here's what
questions.
she wants
Mr.
me to say.
President, let's
A
get to
rich
the
and
audience
famous
questions
person
tonight.
has no advantage over anyone else. Well, you do have an advantage, and I say unfortunately, but that's the way it is.
You said fortunately or unfortunately.
Well,
Mr.
fortunately or
President, we have a lot of
unfortunately.
The way he's spinning it is fucking immaculate. And it's to the point, and you know, people that know me get the impression that, oh, he's the smartest guy in the room. And that's usually true. But the guy thinks faster than I can in certain aspects. And it's like utterly amazing to see him like perform. It's really cool.
audience questions to get to tonight. I want to go back to the audience. We've got Danielle Rieger. She works as an oral surgery
Wouldn't,
assistant.
by the
She's
way.
a Republican activist from Derry. She was a New Hampshire
Wouldn't.
delegate for you in 2020. What's your question?
Hi, thank you so much for coming to New Hampshire to answer our questions. My question is regarding the economy. Over the past 2 years, we have seen the prices for everything skyrocket. From food to gas to utilities and insurance costs, many people's bills are up several $100s a month, including mine. If elected president again, what is the first thing you would do to help bring down the cost to make things more affordable?
Drill, baby, drill.
Oh, she liked that. Let's go.
So we were energy independent. We were soon going to be energy dominant. And nobody had ever done what I did. We got oil down to $1.87. Actually, it fell lower than that in some cases. We had to save the oil companies. The price was getting so. We were doing incredibly. We had the greatest economy in the history of our country, probably the greatest economy in the history of the world. We were energy independent, soon to be energy dominant. We were going to be bigger than Russia and Saudi Arabia put together ×2. We have more liquid gold under our feet than any other nation. Any other nation. And these stupid fools ended it. And energy went from $1.87 and even lower for gasoline, for a car. They went from $1.87 to $5, $6, $7, $8, and even $9. And your electricity bills went through the roof, your heating bills went through the roof. And that's what started inflation. And it hasn't stopped because people are paying now for bacon and for eggs and for the 2 and 3 times what it was just a little while ago. We created the greatest economy in history. A big part of that economy was I got you the biggest tax cuts in the history of our country, bigger than the Reagan cuts, bigger than any. And also, Caitlin, also, as you know, we got the biggest regulation and regulatory cuts. This place was rocking, and then we were given a gift from China, and China paid a big price. And let me tell you something. I took in hundreds of billions of dollars in taxes from China, but prior to COVID coming in, and then I rebuilt the economy again, a second time. But we had, prior to COVID coming in, as from China, from Wuhan, which I said it came from Wuhan. Everybody said, oh, you're wrong about that. You're wrong. It came from Wuhan. I said it right from day one. So we had the greatest economy in the world. Here's the story. They made energy so high, and energy is all invasive. It is massive as an industry and as a cost. It lifted everything. If you made donuts, no matter what you did, and we had inflation, the likes of which I guess we haven't had, as I said, for 52 years, but I think more than that.
He shuts her up so easy.
We
It's
had the lowest
impressive.
energy prices we've had in decades. This country was rocking and rolling. And by the way, we had the most secure border in the history of our
Mr.
country.
President, we have more questions on the economy. I want to make sure we get to all of those. As you know, the U.S. right now could be just 3 weeks away from defaulting on its debt. That can mean millions of jobs lost, people not getting their Social Security payments. People believe it would put the U.S. economy into a recession. On that topic, I want to bring in Marta Cervella, a student here at St. Anselm. She is an undeclared voter who did not vote in 2020. Marta, what's your question?
Hi, Mr. President.
Hi, thank you.
So my question is, what do you think about the United States' current debt situation, and how can we move forward?
Such an important question. So we're at $33 trillion, a number that nobody ever thought possible. When we had our economy rocking and rolling just prior to COVID coming in, like literally, we were making a fortune. And oil, we were going to make so much money from oil, we were going to start paying off debt. But then with COVID coming in, we had to do other things. We had to keep this country alive because it was so serious. But we have to get the country back. We have to lower energy prices. We have to lower interest rates. Interest rates are through the roof. Energy has to come down. It all has to come down, and we have to start paying off debt. But when we have a debt limit, and they use that very seriously. I mean, they came in, Schumer came in with Nancy Pelosi, and they were using, we'll violate it, we'll do whatever. They talked a whole lot different than they do right now. I say to the Republicans out there, congressmen, senators, if they don't give you massive cuts, you're going to have to do a default. And I don't believe they're going to do a default because I think the Democrats will absolutely cave because you don't want to have that happen. But it's better than what we're doing right now because we're spending money like drunken sailors.
So just to be clear, Mr. President, you think the U.S. should default if the White House does not agree to the spending cuts Republicans are
You might
demanding?
as well do it now because you'll do it later because we have to save
Boss
this country.
nigga
Our country
mentality.
is
I
dying.
like that.
Our country is being destroyed by stupid
Awesome.
people, by very stupid people.
You once said that using the debt ceiling as a negotiating wedge just could not happen. You said that when you were in the
That's
Oval
when I was
Office.
president.
So why is it different now that you're out of office?
Because now I'm not president.
Nice. See, there was like a very clear, like hypocritical answer, and he just took it, but like with balls and charisma, and he just said, "Yeah, so what, bitch?"
The U.S. defaulting would be massively
Well, you
consequential
don't know.
for everyone in this room, for all
You don't know.
Americans.
It's psychological. It's really psychological more than anything else. And it could be very bad. It could be maybe nothing. Maybe it's you have a bad week or a bad day. But look, you have to cut your costs. We're spending $7 trillion on, much of it on nonsense. $7 trillion on nonsense.
We've got another
I actually
question
said,
for the voter tonight.
get all of that money that was wasted, and frankly, the Senate should have never approved it. Get all that money that was wasted, and if they don't get rid of that, you'll have to default. Okay?
Mr.
You'll have to
President,
default.
we've got another voter here
And by
tonight.
the way, you're going to default eventually anyway, but it's going to be much messier. I don't think you'll have to default. I think if the Republicans hold strong and they say we want let's say we want $5 trillion off, I really think the Democrats have no choice but to do it. And if I win, they're going to be doing the same thing to me in 2 years. I guarantee you that.
Mr.
They're
President,
going
we've
to
got
play a
another
very
voter
hard
here
ball game,
tonight.
and they did that before.
Bobby Petrino's been waiting very patiently.
Sure.
He's a student at St. Anselm. He's a member of College Republicans. He's an undeclared voter right now. He supported you in 2020.
Guy's a
Bobby,
baby.
what's your question for President Trump?
Hi, thank you for coming. This is a bit of a pivot, but with gun violence and mass shootings in the news cycle recently, I'm worried that state governments and the federal government are going to act to repress gun rights. Under your administration, you instructed the Department of Justice and ATF to ban bump stocks. If elected president again, how would you act not only to
guy's so
defend
odd
our
to
gun
look
rights,
at.
but to restore rights that have been taken from us, such as, by example, recently the ATF's ruling on the pistol stabilizing braces?
Yeah, as you know, the bump stocks are actually a very unimportant thing. And NRA, I went with them, and they said it doesn't mean anything. Or actually, all they do is teach you how to shoot very inaccurately. So we did that. There's been nobody that's protected the Second Amendment, as you know, like I have. I protected it through thick and thin, not easy to do. But we
Okay,
have a very
him
big
being
mental
on the back
health
foot about the
problem
bump
in this
stock
country.
was pretty
And
stupid
again,
because
it's
that
not
was
the
just
gun that
like
pulls the trigger,
he was
it's the
trying to
person that
defend his
pulls the
ego
trigger.
there.
And we have to
And
protect
that wasn't
that.
even a thing that was brought up.
Mr. President, you dealt with a lot of mass shootings when you were in office. This year, there have already been more than 200 mass shootings in 2023. If you are reelected, are there any new gun restrictions that you would sign into law?
No.
I would do numerous things. For instance, schools. We would harden, very, very much harden. And I'm a very believer. I believe in teachers. I love teachers. I think they're incredible. And they love the children, not quite like the parents, but they love the children in many cases almost as much. Many of these teachers are soldiers, ex-policemen. They're people that really understand weapons. And you don't need 5% of the teachers would be more than you could ever have if you're going to hire security guards. But in addition to that, have security guards. You have to harden your entrances. You have to make schools safe. And you can make other places safe. But it is a big mental health problem in this country more than anything else. And remember, we have 700
good rhetoric.
million guns. 700 million. Many people, if they don't have a gun, they're not going to be very safe. I mean, if they don't have a gun, it gives them security. Now, you need them for entertainment, you need them for hunting, you need them for a lot of different things. But there are people that if they didn't have the privilege
Entertainment
of having
first,
a
I
gun
like
in
that.
some form, many of them would not be alive today. You know, there's a certain country that had a very strict policy on guns, very, very strict.
Which country?
And, Brazil, okay? Brazil, very strict. And the former president of Brazil, and the killing was incredible. They were walking into people's homes and killing people. They had no protection. He said, go out and buy guns. People went out and bought guns, and it went way down. The numbers went way down because they had security. If you look at Chicago, Chicago has the single toughest gun policies in the nation. They are so tough you can't breathe. New York, too, and other places also. All of those places are the worst and most dangerous places. So that's not the answer.
No new restrictions that you would sign if reelected, Mr. President. I want you to meet Julie Miles, a registered nurse from Merrimack. She's a Republican who voted for you in 2020. Julie, what's your question for the president?
Wouldn't.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Oh my God.
Appreciate you answering this
Hard to
question
look
this
at.
evening.
Jesus
How do you
Christ,
plan
bro.
to
Get
appeal
a
to women
better
voters in New
looking
Hampshire who
woman.
are
Oh
concerned
my
about
God.
the Dobbs decision and how states may change their laws?
Block the screen.
Such a
Holy
great
shit.
question, and it was such a great victory, and people are starting to understand it now. You know that they wanted to bring it back to the states, but that was probably the least important part of that victory. Getting rid of Roe v. Wade was an incredible thing for pro-life because it gave pro-life something to negotiate with. Pro-life had absolutely nothing being stuck in Roe v. Wade to negotiate with. And now what's happening, and I see it all over, deals are being made, deals are going to be made. And look, everybody that was president wanted to get rid and tried to get rid of Roe v. Wade.
You mean
for 50
Republicans?
years. Republicans. For 50 years, this has been going on. Actually, a couple of Democrats too. But for 50 years, this has been going on. I was able to do it, and I was very honored to do it. But by doing it, things are happening that are very, very positive. And I happen to believe in the exceptions: the life of the mother, rape, incest, like Ronald Reagan believed in the exceptions. But I happen to believe that. I think it's frankly important to do that. But a lot of people are, against that. A relatively small number. But the way I look, I think it's very important to say this. I consider the other side to be radical because the other side, under Roe v. Wade and other things, the other side, they're radical because they will. Remember the debate with Hillary Clinton? I said, rip the baby out of the womb at the end of the 9th month. They will kill the baby in the 9th month. If you look at that crazy governor of Virginia, from the former governor, where he said, no, the baby will be born, and then we'll decide essentially whether or not to execute the
Mr.
baby.
President, can we talk about what you would do if
But
you
these are the
if you
radical people.
reelected?
It's not the pro-life people that are
But
radical.
if you are reelected and you're back in the Oval Office and you get legislation to your desk, would you sign a federal abortion ban into law?
What I'll do is negotiate so that people are happy. But the fact that I was able, I'm so proud of it. We put 3 great justices on the Supreme Court.
Good for him to
We have almost
sidestep it because there's really no
300
benefit in
federal
doubling down on the
judges.
abortion thing because
So
the
you-
Roe
is
v.
that-
Wade was like the
Mr.
top
President,
billing
you-
anyway.
You would sign a federal abortion ban into
I
law.
said this. I want to do what's right. And we're looking. And we want to do what's right for everybody.
But what's right?
But now, for the first time, the people that are pro-life have negotiating capability because you didn't have it before. They could kill the baby in the 9th month or after the baby was born. Now they won't be able
But
to
I
do
think
that.
this is a really important question for you to answer because this is something every Republican, including those who are running against you for the nomination, are being asked about is would you sign a federal abortion ban into law?
And many of them are going to give you the same answer as I am. First of all, I am honored to have done what I did. And a lot of people said, in 150 years, he's now the most consequential president because he saved so many lives. And I'm honored to have done it. And because of what I've done, we now have a great negotiating ability. That's what I do in life. I negotiate. We have a great negotiating ability, and I think we're going to be able to get
What do you
something
mean
done.
negotiating ability? Because the question that Republicans have, and some of your allies on Capitol Hill say that they want to introduce legislation.
Is she
when it
hot?
comes to
I
banning
can't
abortion.
tell.
If they send it to your
It's such a
desk, would you sign
struggle.
it?
Some people are at 6 weeks. Some people are at 3 weeks,
Where's
2
President
weeks.
Trump?
President Trump is going to make a determination what he thinks is great for the country and what's fair for the country.
It's so
But the fact
Keno
that I
in the
was able
third
to
person. Oh my
terminate
God,
Roe v.
that's
Wade
awesome.
After 50 years of trying, they worked
Mr.
for
Trump.
50 years. I've never seen anything like it. They worked, and I was so honored to have done it. We are in a very good negotiating position right now,
Man,
only
this guy's so
because of
fucking
what
cool.
I was able to do. And remember this, again, you talk about radicalism. People that will kill a baby in the 9th month or the 8th month or the 7th month or after the baby is born, they're the radicals, not the
I
pro-life.
just want to give you.
Yes, Overton window. Let's go.
Because you did not answer whether or not you'd sign a
Breaking
federal
the
abortion
barrier.
ban or how many weeks into pregnancy you believe abortion should be banned.
Yeah, but I've
Can you
given
answer
you,
either
I've
of those
given you the
tonight?
answer probably 4 times already.
Which one
I'm
is it,
looking,
though?
I'm
You
looking
haven't
at a solution that's going to work. Very complex issue for the country. You have people on both sides of an issue, but we are now in a very strong position. Pro-life people are in a strong position to make a deal that's going to be good and going to be satisfactory for them. If you weren't able to get rid of, you wouldn't even be having a discussion. If you weren't able to get rid of Roe v. Wade, which put pro-life in a dead position, a horrible position, they could kill the baby at any time they wanted to. But we did something that nobody thought was doable. And other Republican presidents and others, by the way, they wanted to get it out. They also wanted to bring it back to the states. But bringing it back to the states is a less important issue
But that's why
than
it's
the
the
issue that
question
we
about a
just talked
federal
about.
abortion ban. You did not say yes or no to that.
It
You did
depends
not say how many
it depends
weeks.
what the deal is. Lindsey Graham's
did not
a
say how
good
many
man. He's
weeks.
got an idea, and a lot of other people have an idea. And I look at all the
And a lot of
different
people will
ideas,
be
and
curious
I'll
what
make
your
the right
idea is on
decision.
that. President Trump, we've got more questions to come for you tonight. We'll
Make
be
the
right
right
back.
decision for the
in
country.
just
She
a moment.
really tried to get him on that. Like, oh my, yo. Like, after the second time, please just fucking let up, bitch. Oh my gosh. Yeah, fucking ads. What the? That's crazy.
Now's the time for cleaner
Let's skip
indoor
around
air
here,
with
buds.
air duct clean from Stanley Steamer.
Okay.
For $9.39 a month at BMW of Asheville.
5 more seconds. Uno, dos, tres, cuatro, cinco. All right.
Welcome back to CNN's Republican Presidential Town Hall with former President Donald Trump. President Trump, I'd like you to meet Jennifer Simmons. She is a stay-at-home mom and former town selectman from Wyndham. She's a Republican, and she voted for you in 2020. Jennifer, what's your question tonight?
Good evening, Mr. President. Title 42 is expected to expire tomorrow. Our southern border and now our northern border are experiencing record migration. We learned on May 2nd that the Biden administration plans on deploying 1,500 troops to the southern border. Do you agree with deploying troops to the border, and how will the Trump administration slow down the rate of migrants coming across all our borders?
Sure. A very fair question, especially since tomorrow is going to be a day of infamy. You're going to have tens of thousands of people pouring into our country. Even the judge, the judge overruled them when they wanted to terminate it early. And he said, that you better extend this thing. The judge in Texas said, I hope you're going to extend this. But this is my policy that they're letting terminate because they lost in court. They wanted to go earlier. You're going to have millions of people pouring into our country right now at a level that nobody's ever seen before. These people are sick. Anybody that wants this to happen to our country, they're destroying our country, and this should not be allowed to happen. How they're not going to do a version of Title 42 or my Title 42, which was tough. If people are sick and have infectious diseases and lots of other problems, we don't want them being into our country. We have enough problems right now. We have problems like we've never had in the history of our country.
But Mr. President,
our country is being destroyed.
The reason it's ending is because the health policy, the COVID-era pandemic emergency, is coming to an end. That's what Title 42 was. You put it in place because of COVID.
True, but
when it comes to big questions about what your immigration policy would look like if you are reelected, some of your Republican rivals have criticized you for not fulfilling the promises that you made on the campaign trail, like finishing the border wall. So how did voters know that you would get those done if you're reelected?
I did finish the wall. I built a wall. I built hundreds of miles of wall, and I finished it. And then I said, we have to build some more because there are areas like water going through a dam. There are some areas where a lot of people are coming. You close up one, and they come into another. And we started another 100 miles of wall. In fact, I said to my people, if we start this and don't finish it, and then we had a rigged election, I'm sorry to say it.
The election was not rigged, Mr. President. You can't keep saying that all night long.
And so then they took over, and they decided not to finish it. It would have taken them 3
And he
weeks.
will, and he
I built
will,
hundreds
bitch.
of miles of wall.
See.
If we didn't have it, it would be hard to believe it could be any worse. They're just letting people flow into our country. Look, a country has to have borders. There's never been anything like that is happening to our country
You
right
built
now.
about 52 miles of new wall when you were in office, Mr. President. It wasn't the complete wall. One other thing that with
No, but I have to
immigration,
respond to that.
with your immigration, it was only about 52
can I
miles of
respond?
new wall.
This is what she does. I built hundreds of miles. Some of the wall was up there, and it would be laying on the ground, rusted, rotten steel, rusted, rotten wood.
Lying-ass
And what
liberal
the radical
media.
and crazy Democrats did.
It was
there's a
way
piece of
more
wood
than
laying
52.
down,
I've
they
seen
considered
it.
that a wall. I built 30-foot walls that go down
was like
7
a good
feet into the
500.
ground. If there was a little piece of wood sitting in the ground, they said, oh, he's not building a wall. We already had a wall. Because this is the game. They're a party of disinformation.
It's not a game, Mr. President. It's about 52 miles of new wall. One other immigration policy you
I
had
built
when you
new
were in
wall.
office.
I built new wall.
52 miles
For hundreds of
according
miles.
to CBP, Mr.
What I did is I
President.
replaced other wall that was laying down, that was up and rotting in the ground for 30 years. Some of it was steel that you couldn't
Mr.
even
President, it was
see.
only about 52 miles of new wall. But moving on, another immigration policy you had was the zero-tolerance immigration policy that separated families at the border. If you are reelected, are you ruling out instituting that?
Well, when you have that policy, people don't come. If a family hears that they're going to be separated, they love their family. They don't come. So I know it sounds harsh, but if you remember they said I was building prisons for children. It turned out that it was Obama that was building
But
the
would you
prisons for the
re-implement
children.
that if you're
Based
reelected?
Obama?
We
Obama
have to
W
save our
question
country,
mark?
all right? We
So it
can't
sounds like
afford,
that's a yes.
When you say to a family that if you come, we're going to break you up, they don't come. And we can't afford to have any more. Look at New York City. Look what's happening. They're living in Central Park in New York City. The city is being swamped. Los Angeles is being swamped. Iowa is being swamped. Our whole country is being destroyed. Millions of people are coming into our country. And you know what the number is going to be, in my opinion, by the end of the year? Not the 4 million that you hear and the 3 million. I think it's going to be 15 million people. And in these people, they have no idea where they come from. They come from 129 different countries so far. 120,
Mr.
not just the
President,
4 that we
just
talked
to put a button on that, it sounds like what you're saying is that you're not ruling out re-implementing that immigration policy. I want to get to another voter. Caitlin Boissonneau is a student here at St. Anselm College. She's a Republican. This will be the first election
She's
that
all
she
right.
has voted in. What's your question for the President, Caitlin?
Hello, President Trump. Thank you so much for coming.
Would I question
The
mark?
current
The eyes
administration
are
has
good.
made it clear that we should continue to provide military equipment to Ukraine so that they can defend themselves. Do you support this decision, and how would you deal with the increasing threat posed by Vladimir Putin?
First of all, thank you very much. It's really nice. And it's an important question, so important, because we're giving away so much equipment. We don't have ammunition for ourselves right now. We don't have ammunition for ourselves. We're giving away so much. But here's the thing. I have to say it to start off. No longer matters. If I were president, this would have never happened. And even the Democrats admit that. Putin knew it would have never happened. And his pipeline would have never happened. A lot of things would have never happened. But this
Which
would never
Democrats
happen.
say that,
And
Mr.
all those
President?
dead people, both Russian and Ukrainian, they wouldn't be dead today. And all those cities that are blown up and disintegrated right to the ground, that wouldn't have happened. Okay, now, here's the problem. We've given so far $171 billion. They've given, meaning European Union, which is approximately the same size altogether as our economy. They've given about 20. So we're at 170, let's say, and they're at 20. You don't have to know too much about history to realize, or geography, to realize that they're a little bit more affected than we are, okay? So they've got to put up a lot more money because they're taking advantage of us like every other country did. That's why I ended NAFTA and replaced it with the USMCA, Mexico,
But on
Canada.
this issue, Mr. President, I should know, I don't know any Democrats who have said they don't believe Putin would have invaded if you were president. But her question is, would you continue to give Ukraine money and weapons if you're elected? What's the answer?
I have a very good relationship with President Zelensky because, as you know, he backed me up with the phony impeachment hoax number one when he said the president didn't do anything wrong. So
That
I
was when you
happen to
asked him for an
like. So I
investigation
happen to
in
like. Yeah,
exchange
that's
for
right. And I was totally exonerated, by the way. Just a waste of time and money.
You were impeached over that. You were impeached over that.
Nigga, who cares? That's like saying, oh, you were charged over a crime. Yeah, but I was not guilty, bitch.
Let's
Who
stay on
cares?
here, Mr. President, because the question is, would you give Ukraine weapons
I was
and funding?
impeached by a crazy woman named Nancy Pelosi.
But the question here is, would you give Ukraine weapons and funding if you were
I would
elected?
sit down. Let me just put it a nicer way. If I'm president, I will have that war settled in one day, 24 hours.
How would you settle that war in one day?
Trust the plan. Trust the plan.
I'll meet with Zelensky. They both have weaknesses and they both have strengths. And within 24 hours, that war will be settled. It'll be over. It'll be
Do
absolutely
you
over.
want Ukraine to win this war?
I don't think in terms of winning and losing. I think in terms of getting it settled so we stop killing all these people and breaking down.
Yes! Yes! That's such a good way to like pivot.
Can I just follow up on
Yes.
that? You said you don't.
It's not left or right. It's forward. It's a third position. It's to say, you know what, nigga, I don't care about Eastern Europe. You guys figure it the fuck out.
Things you have to do is you have to get
Mr.
Europe.
President, can I just follow up on that because that's a really important
Excuse me, let
statement
me
that you
just
just
follow
made
up.
there. Can you say if you want Ukraine or Russia to win this war?
I want everybody to stop dying. They're dying. Russians and Ukrainians. I want them to stop dying. And I'll have that done. I'll have that done in 24 hours. I'll have it done. You need the power of the presidency to do it.
But you won't say that you want Ukraine to win.
You know what I'll say? I'll say this. I want Europe to put up more money because they're in for 20 billion. We're in for 170, and they should be, and they should equalize. They have plenty of money. They should equalize. I got with NATO. When I sat down, I got them to put up hundreds of billions of dollars that they weren't paying under Obama and Bush and all of these other presidents. That's why they're able to help them fight the war because of the money I got. But I want Europe. I want Europe to put up more money because they're laughing at us. They think we're a bunch of jerks. We're spending 170 billion dollars for faraway land, and they're right next door to that land. And they're in for 20. I don't think so.
When it comes to what's happening there, when you were in office, you said that you respected President Putin. Do you still respect him today?
He made a tremendous mistake. He was a smart guy, you know. I remember I said he was smart, she was smart. He said President Xi of China, right, is smart. Okay, 1.5 billion people. He's the ruler of 1.5 billion people. I said, he's a smart guy. How dare he say he's smart? Of course he's smart. They want you to say he's a stupid person. Okay, he's not a stupid person. He's very smart. He's very cunning. And Putin made a bad mistake, in my opinion.
What was his mistake?
His mistake was going in. He would have never gone in if I was president. We used to talk about it there.
Do you believe that he is a war criminal?
What?
Do you believe that Putin is a war criminal? He's responsible for the deaths of thousands of Ukrainian men and
I think it's something that should not be discussed now. It should be discussed later. Because right now we have to get a war. If you say he's a war criminal, it's going to be a lot tougher to make a deal to get this thing stopped. Because if he's going to be a war criminal where people are going to go and grab him and execute him, he's going to fight a lot harder than he's fighting, you know, under the other circumstance. That's something to be discussed at a later date. Right now we want to get that war settled. And I'm not talking about the money either. I'm talking about all the lives that are being, the number of people being killed in that war is far greater than you're hearing. When they blow up a city and those buildings come pouring down and then they say 2 people were injured, no, hundreds and thousands of people are being killed. And we have to get that war settled.
We have more with former President Trump. Right after this, we're going to take a quick break and then we'll be back with questions from voters right after that.
Right, dude, he's killing this shit, bro. This is surprising.
Time to slip in.
Like, this is amazing right now. Oh, he's gonna stand up. Let's go. Let's go. Virile Trump. He's gonna be walking around, knowing where he is, because Joe Biden otherwise would be roaming around, not knowing where he's standing.
We have a lot more voters' questions I should note here in New Hampshire to get to, but I also want to talk about some of the other investigations that you're facing. We talked about others at the top, but one of those is the special counsel's investigation into classified documents that were found at Mar-a-Lago. Why did you take those documents with you when you left the White House?
I had every right to under the Presidential Records Act. You have the Presidential Records Act. I was there and I took what I took, and it gets declassified. Biden, on the other hand, he has 1,850 boxes. He had boxes sent to Chinatown, where they don't speak even English in that Chinatown we're talking about.
I got to stop you right there because
they talk about us. Just so you understand, I had every right to do it. I didn't make a secret of it. You know, the boxes were stationed outside of the White House. People were taking pictures of the GSA of the various people.
I got to stop you right there, though, because the Presidential Records Act, which is not well known to a lot of people, I read it. It does not say that you can take documents with you. It says actually that they are the property of the federal government.
You negotiate, you make a deal. It's not criminal, by the way. The Presidential Records Act is not criminal. And just so you know,
it's not that you can negotiate to take the documents with you.
Can I tell you? Just so you understand, the Presidential Records Act is not criminal. I took the documents I'm allowed to. You know who else took them? Obama took them. Nixon took them. Reagan took them. Oh, he didn't?
The difference here that I'd like to know.
Reagan
National
took
Archive says that President Obama
even Jimmy
did not
Carter,
take
even
documents.
Mike Pence had some documents, and he's a very honorable guy.
You referenced
but you know
Biden.
who took them more than anybody is Joe Biden. He has 1,800 boxes, and nobody even knows where they are. 1,800, and nobody talks about him.
Mr. President,
and they put a rough guy on us, and in the meantime they have
nobody. Mr. President, to actually set the record straight here. They took documents, including President or Vice President Pence. When they realized they had documents, they turned them back over. The difference is that you waited to turn yours over, and it was a year-and-a-half effort that included a subpoena with those documents. One question I would have when you had those documents. It included a raid on my house. That's what it included. They didn't raid. You'd gotten a subpoena, and they had not been turned over yet.
They didn't raid Biden's house. You know what happened? They put him in the house. That's the one with the Corvette, where the documents were laying all over the floor. That was fine. And you know who happens to be at Mar-a-Lago? Secret Service, and they're phenomenal. I have Secret Service. He didn't have Secret Service. The other thing, the Vice President cannot declassify. He didn't have the right to declassify. He has documents from when he was a senator, and even Democrat senators say, I can't believe it. No, I went by the Presidential Records Act, and we were negotiating with NARA.
That's not what it says,
and NARA has red flagged a thing called the Constitution of
the way she looks at him, I think she low-key likes him.
Mr. President, that's not what it says, and I should note that there is a special counsel investigating your document situation, also President Biden's document situation. When it comes to your documents, did you ever show those classified documents to anyone?
Not really. I would have the right to. By the way, they were declassified after. Not that I can think of. Let me just tell you, I have the absolute right to do whatever I want with them. I have the right. I was negotiating with NARA. Do you know what NARA is?
The National Archives.
Extremely left group of people. Extremely left. And I was negotiating with them. All of a sudden, they raided my house. They didn't. They're
not love. They're bipartisan, bitch. That's not a comeback. You fucking insolent. Ugh.
Raid the house of Joe Biden. They didn't raid Obama.
But Joe Biden didn't ignore a subpoena to get those documents back like you did.
And so that's the question.
But that's the question that investigators have, I think, is why you held onto those documents when you knew the federal government was seeking them and then had given you a subpoena to return them.
Are you ready? Are you ready? Can I talk?
Yeah, what's the answer?
Do you mind?
I would like for you to answer the question.
Okay, it's very simple to answer.
That's why I asked it.
It's very simple to. You're a nasty person, I'll tell you that.
Let's go! Playoff Trump, we're so back.
Why you held onto the
negotiating, and we were talking to NARA, that's Washington, to bring whatever they want. They can have whatever they want. When we left Washington, we had the boxes lined up on the sidewalk outside for everybody. People are taking pictures of them. Everybody knew we were taking those boxes. And the GSA, the government service, the GSA was the one taking them. They brought them down to Mar-a-Lago. We were negotiating with NARA. All of a sudden, they raid our house. When Biden had his documents, he won't give back the 1,850 boxes.
That's a great point. Yeah, sure, he didn't relinquish the boxes, but everybody knew he had them, and he knew everybody knew that he had them. So it wasn't a big deal either way.
To find some real gems in there.
But it was Biden who alerted them that he had the documents. The National Archives reached out to you to get your documents back. Why did you not turn them over when you got a subpoena asking for you to turn them over?
We were negotiating with them as per the Presidential Records Act. We were negotiating with NARA.
That's not what the Presidential Records Act says.
But they got to love our Constitution a little bit more, and they shouldn't red flag it, by the way. Very nice people. We were negotiating with NARA, and that's what the Presidential Records Act says, because Richard Nixon, surprisingly, had problems, and he had a lot of problems dealing with NARA, and they ended up passing legislation called the Presidential Records Act, just for this kind of a thing. We were dealing with them. We were talking. Excuse me. Wait a minute. Wait. We were talking to them. We would have done it, but all of a sudden they raided the house. Now, why hasn't the FBI raided Biden?
But I just explained to you why. It's because he told, they alerted the government that they had those documents and had them come and get the documents from his house. My question for you, though, when it comes to documents, do you still have any classified documents in your possession?
Are you ready?
Do you?
No, I don't have anything. I have no classified documents. And by the way, they become automatically declassified when I took them. But
no,
why?
You have to declassify
Let me ask you a question. Why is it that Biden had 9 boxes in Chinatown, and he gets a lot of money from China? Why is that? And why aren't people?
That's just like boomer bait. That's awesome.
And why did they put this guy Jack Smith and his group of thugs? Why did they put him in charge of that?
I need to stop you right there because there's no evidence of what you just said there. What you're referring to there is an office that he had after leaving the vice presidency. Well, he had a temporary office. But I want to ask you about another investigation that you're facing.
You don't know the subject.
I do know the subject.
He had one at University of Pennsylvania, but he also had 9 boxes in Chinatown.
That you're facing, which is the one that's happening in Georgia, where they are investigating your efforts to overturn the election results in the state of Georgia. At the center of that, let me finish my question. At the center of that is that call that you had with the Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger.
Yeah, sure.
Given the fact that there are indictments expected to come in that case this summer, is that a call you would make again today?
Yeah, I called questioning the election. I thought it was a rigged election. I thought it had a lot of problems.
Double down. He's not backed out of shit, bro. This is awesome. He's moving the Overton window with him. Libtards don't see it coming. It's like quicksand.
If this call was bad, I questioned the election. If this call was bad, I didn't ask him to find anything.
We've heard the audio tape.
What's more amazing is that Donald Trump has the balls to do this at like the biggest stage possible, but he also does it without drugs. The guy's completely sober and straight laced, and I find that very remarkable. A lot of people that are very orally gifted, maybe in a gay way, like in the case of Milo Yiannopoulos, for instance, has to psych himself up to debate destiny with drugs because, otherwise he can't perform in the same capacity, maybe because of anxiety or something like that. Whereas with Donald Trump, straight up, Diet Coke in his veins, straight up belting this bitch, easy mode.
There's an audio of you asking him to find you 11,000
I said, you owe me votes because the election was rigged. That election was rigged. And if this call was bad, why didn't him and his lawyers hang up? How dare you say that? This was a perfect
They were clearly concerned enough. They recorded the call, and I should note that,
this was a call that was made to question the results of election. And when we can't make a call to question election results, then this country ought to just forget about it.
You weren't just questioning the election results. You were asking him to find you votes. And I should note that there is no evidence of fraud. There is no rigged election in the state of Georgia. I want to get back to the audience, though, Mr. President, because those are false claims you're making about what happened in Georgia. Jordan Tellerberger is here. He's an undeclared voter from Hollis. He voted for you in 2020. Jordan, what is your question for President Trump tonight?
Thank you, Mr. Trump.
Thank you very much.
I'm 26. I'm a veteran. I help manage a private aviation company.
You want a job?
I'd love one, yeah.
I'm looking for somebody very good.
I'm not for mandates or government interference in private business, but I've seen Republicans going after us like DeSantis after Disney.
Right.
What would you do as president to protect us from government interference?
Well, I'm the one that really wants to protect you. All of these fake investigations of me are about election interference. They think because I'm leading Biden by 11 points, 7 points, 9 points, I'm leading DeSanctimonious by a lot.
Yeah, DeSanctimonious, nigga.
I think you ought to just relax and take it easy and think about the future, because right now his future's not looking so good. I will tell you this: we are really putting it to Biden, but he's putting it to himself.
Anybody who left the Trump train, get ready to hang off of the noose, metaphorically.
The way he got out of Afghanistan was the single most embarrassing moment in the history of our country.
Real.
I have one more question for you here tonight.
Worse than slavery.
While we're in front of the voters here in New Hampshire, this is a fundamental question for you.
Awesome.
You are running in the 2024 race. If you are the Republican nominee and you are in that 2024 race, will you commit tonight to accepting the results of the 2024 election?
Yeah, if I think it's an honest election, absolutely I would.
Will you commit to accepting the results of the election regardless of the outcome?
You want me to answer it again? If I think it's an honest election, I would be honored to. And right now we are so far ahead of both Democrat and Republican. And you know what? If I don't win, this country's going to be in big trouble. It's so sad to see what's happening.
But no commitment there on the accepting the results regardless of the outcome.
If it's an honest election, correct. I will.
Okay, so not committing to accepting the 2024 election results or acknowledging.
Yeah, bitch, get out of here. Get out of here, nigga. Don't care.
2020. President Trump, I want to thank you for coming here tonight. This is an important conversation with voters to hear and to have. Thank you to our audience and to our host, St. Anselm College.
This guy's such a fucking king, bro. Oh man.
Yes. Thank you very much.
What a king, bro.
Good job. Thank you, Thank you, guys. We love New Hampshire. Thank you, Winnie. Good luck, Winnie.
Thanks, everyone.
We're looking there at St. Anselm College in Manchester, New Hampshire. Tonight's CNN Town Hall, moderated by Caitlin Collins. The first of the 2024 presidential campaign is now in the books. Good evening from New York.
Oh, from Washington, it was an interesting night. Mr. Trump's first lie was told just seconds.
Shut the fuck up, bro. Shut the fuck up, you losers. Anyway, bro, that was amazing. That was absolutely phenomenal. American patriots. I cannot even remark to you how incredible that was to watch. You know, virtually everything went perfectly. He answered almost everything exactly the way that I would have done it, or even better yet, he answered it in such a way where it was even better. And it was like, bro, how does he even think about it that fast? Mind you, I had it at like 1.5 speed for most of it, so maybe that's why he came off as more intelligent as usual, like on TV. But the fact is that the guy is remarkably sharp for his age, and moreover, he seems to be at that 2016 level insofar as he's like willing to go to that mudslinging tier, and you totally need that. Especially when the economy sucks and when Joe Biden's a shitty candidate, you can afford to be further right wing because you're shifting the Overton window. For instance, a lot of Republicans like DeSantis or other people would have cucked on Roe v. Wade. And even if they wouldn't, they would have the propensity mentally to do that. And like if somebody were to say, grab him by the pussy, DeSantis would be like, oh, I didn't say that and I apologize. That was so wrong. Whereas Donald Trump is like, you know what? Unfortunately or fortunately so, playing devil's advocate, this is like everybody else a million years ago. This is how power and reality works. That's the honesty. People appreciate that. And it's not honesty in such a way that it's inappropriate, but honesty in such a way that it's funny, that it's so real. And he's a real human being speaking, and people understand that. And when he said, you know, when he's remarking about how obviously Joe Biden had classified documents, Mike Pence, but it's Donald Trump that's getting persecuted. It's very obvious that he's the target of political witch hunts. When he brings up the fact, the very obvious fact, mind you, that there's a sexual assault case where, oh, he was guilty or something. And guess what? The chick was 60 years old, allegedly, when he raped her. Bro, really? Really? Donald Trump, the guy who had an affair with like a 26-year-old porn star, went for a 60-year-old in a dressing room of a department store? Am I supposed to believe that? Of course it's fake. And DeSantis and other people like that would be like, oh man, I didn't do it, but if I did it, it would be so wrong. When the real response, which Donald Trump did in the affirmative, was, well, you know what? You bitch are crazy. I would never go for a 60-year-old. She's not hot. And she said this about her husband. She said this about her, you know, she called her cat vagina. She's a disgusting person. And look at the mitigating circumstances about where the rape happened. Like, it obviously didn't occur, you know. And so he exonerated himself on so many charges. And then the way he manhandled the woman and, you know, the way he just cut her off. And the pretense would have been like, oh, I honestly thought they would have cut his mic off, but he just kept on going. And he kept on stiff arming her. He pulled a complete Derrick Henry in the playoffs where he just keeps, you know, breaking tackles and nobody can stop the guy. He's a complete freight train rhetorically. And so he just keeps on chugging and chugging. And a lot of people have, you know, lost interest in Trump in large part because of the fact that he's like, oh, not as energetic. He's Zion Don. But in the reality is that he's getting into that playoff setting where there was blood in the water in the primary, and he just quickly mopped it up to the point where DeSantis is not standing a real threat at all to be a threat. And so right now he's focusing on Joe Biden, and it's a very easy to shadow box against him because, again, his administration is flailing. And so Donald Trump, with a lead of, let's say, like a couple percent realistically, obviously, you know, ideally he'd be winning by like 10, but realistically, let's say he's winning by like 3% of the popular vote. Let's just say hypothetically. The fact is that he's in the lead, which means that he can afford to move the Overton window, which means he can afford to basically double down on every single position he's ever had and still win. And that's remarkable. What he's doing is creating a new tread for the Republican Party and future conservatives to actually advocate for further right policies that are actually America first. When you're talking about immigration, when you're talking about reinstating Title 42, he didn't use the bullshit of like, well, COVID is still a threat, so we should reinstate it. No, reinstate it just because we don't want immigrants. He didn't say there's, you know, legal immigrants are good. No, he said there's too many immigrants as it is, that we don't want them because they have pathogens and shit, and we just don't want them. We have enough problems. And then with Ukraine, Ron DeSantis would have been like, oh, I want Ukraine to win, but blah, 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 blah. And it would have come off as gay and insincere. Whereas Donald Trump specifically goes and he says, you know what? I honestly don't give a shit. People are dying either way. just playing it towards the middle in such an honest and vibrant, masculine, conservative kind of like real human being speaking, in that extent to where people can understand where he's coming from, in such a capacity to where somebody who's completely apathetic to politics might think like, wow, I don't care about the Ukraine. I don't care about the virtue signaling. Let's just renegotiate this. And Donald Trump's the businessman, art of the deal. We'll settle this with Russia right away. And then again, with the bullshit. And then when they try to get him on the virtue signal, they're like, oh, is Putin a war criminal? He said, you know what? That's not important because I don't want him to nuke Ukraine, more or less. That's what he implied. So let's deal with that later. That's practical. That's the adult in the room. And people will underscore that with, oh, he's flailing his arms. He's flamboyant. Oh my God. He's like this pestilence. No, he controls the fucking room. That's the point. When the thing ends, he shakes the bitch's hand. He waves her off at different points. It doesn't matter. He calls her nasty to her face. It doesn't faze him because he does what he wants. And he is stoic. Stoic in a way that you don't understand. Stoic in such a way where you might think, oh my God, he's being a retard. But no, it's tard strength. It is 4-dimensional chess. The guy is viscerally one of the smartest people I've ever known of. The guy's extremely intelligent. And no, not in the book smart way, but in the antithetical sense. Insofar as he's just so, like, his gut is so good, no homo, but it's like, whatever's in there is like made out of diamond because he clearly understands what he's doing. And again, I doubt he really preps for this shit, but he still does so well. And it's utterly surprising how he pulls it off every fucking time. It's really a testament to his charisma. It's a testament to his generational talent as a personality, and that he's able to translate it on the TV in front of millions of people. And what Anderson Cooper and that other Jake Tapper retard come up with is like, oh, the first lie, the first technicality we're gonna get him on. Who gives a fuck? People don't care about that. The swing voter in Wisconsin doesn't care about that. The line worker that lost his job to a Chinese offshoring manufacturing plant is not gonna care about, oh, the nigga lied about his fucking documents. Nobody actually cares. The working class doesn't really pertain to this issue. It's really a bunch of whack jobs in DC jerking themselves off to the idea of like, oh, we're gonna raid Mar-a-Lago. It's gonna really get him this time. No, it's not. It's not, because Donald Trump is justified in what he's doing, and you need to trust the plan. He really performed well here, and just to sum it up real quick, I was expecting like a 7 out of 10 performance from Donald Trump. He gave me a 9. He fucking killed it, dude. That was amazing. I hope that they don't, what they could say is like, well, Donald Trump really did good here. We should just stop him. Oy vey, shut it down. Or they might say, this is good ratings. We'll just keep him on. If that's the case, keep doing these town halls because he clearly killed it. And that's even with the first couple questions being completely antithetical to his modus operandi. She opened up with very, very nasty, hard-hitting questions about, January 6th and the election. And he doubled down, and he optically won that. Why? Because he completely manhandled the woman that was interviewing him. And not only that, because he also had anecdotes. These anecdotes that basically proliferate his veracity as an orator, where he cites specific examples and anecdotes in such a way that makes them sound realistic, okay? And it basically, to a layman, sounds convincing. And yes, to these whack jobs on Twitter, these 110 IQ midwits that are like, oh my God, but Fulton County turnout percentage, those people don't matter. Don't get bogged in the weeds of the Twitter people, okay? And I have to tell my friends this all the time. The election mafia are always going to hate Donald Trump. But the common man, think of the common person. Think of your coworker at work. Do you think he's going to be convinced by Donald Trump? Probably yes. Because the way he orates comes off as somebody who knows what he's doing. The confidence. Again, a lot of the time, and I can tell, 20% of the answers of the questions were kind of bullshit. He was misdirecting, like a Roe v. Wade. The closest thing he got to like not doubling down was on that. He was obfuscating. Why? Because why would he give up optics on the abortion thing when what he could do is basically already done, which is appoint the Supreme Court judges and hope that they decide well on Roe v. Wade, which they did. What else could he ask for? So he got what he wanted out of that. And so that was just the smart thing to do politically. And so what I will say is that he completely overperformed my expectations, and I'm really proud of him and his performance today. Comment down below what you thought, and comment down below also if you like the format. Anyways, I'll see you guys in the next video.